I never thought this day would come, Lily Thompson whispered to herself, the words barely audible over the morning chatter of the village square as the sun crept slowly above the distant hills, casting long golden streaks across the dusty path where she stood, her hands clutching the folds of a simple cotton dress that had been pressed hastily in the small room she shared with her family, every heartbeat echoing like a drum in her chest, the sound mingling with the low hum of roosters and the soft rustle of leaves in the warm spring breeze, as neighbors gathered with polite smiles and curious eyes, whispering congratulations that felt heavy and impossible to accept, because this was not her choice. This was a path carved out by circumstances and expectation, and the weight of it settled on her shoulders like a stone she had been carrying for years. Marcus Reed, the man she was to marry, approached with a quiet confidence that seemed to ripple through the crowd, his steps measured, the dust rising briefly around his polished boots with each footfall. Lily noticed the faint glint of a gold watch peeking from under his sleeve, a detail so subtle it might have been missed by anyone else. But to her, it felt like a clue, a fragment of something bigger, something hidden beneath the ordinary. Because while everyone in the village had spoken of Marcus as a simple man of modest means, there was a subtle air about him, a precision in his gestures and a calm in his gaze that suggested experience far beyond the life he had presented. The breeze shifted, carrying the scent of fresh earth and wildflowers, and Lily inhaled deeply, trying to steady her racing thoughts, the murmurs around her growing louder. Yet each syllable seemed to fade as she focused on the incongruity in Marcus's demeanor, the way his eyes scanned the horizon, the slight furrow of his brow as though he were calculating, assessing, not merely present, and it stirred in her a mix of apprehension and curiosity that was entirely new. For years she had felt confined, her world defined by necessity and the limitations of her village, and now, standing at the precipice of this unwanted union, she sensed that there were layers to Marcus that no one had glimpsed before, layers that promised both challenge and revelation. And as he stopped just a few feet away, extending a hand with a courteous yet restrained nod, Lily realized that her story, the one she had carried quietly in her heart, was about to collide with a reality far larger than the dusty paths and sunlit hills of her home. And in that instant, the crowd seemed to blur, the air thickened, and the subtle tension of hidden truths began to hum around them, a signal of the twists to come, leaving Lily with a tremor of anticipation and a pulse that urged her to pay attention to every glance, every gesture, every shadow that might hint at the secrets waiting just beyond the veil of ordinary life. Because this was only the beginning of a journey that would test her courage, her judgment, and her understanding of the man beside her, a man who was far more than he appeared to be. The sun climbed higher over the rolling hills as Lily followed Marcus along the narrow dirt path leading away from the village square, her fingers brushing nervously against the rough fabric of her dress, while the scent of wildflowers and damp earth mingled in the morning air, each step echoing in her mind, as if counting the moments before her life would change, the villagers trailing behind at a respectful distance, their whispers fading into the soft hum of the wind through the trees. Marcus, walking with a composed grace that seemed effortless, the subtle gleam of his polished boots catching the sunlight at intervals, and Lily noticed the way his gaze would occasionally drift to the distant horizon, as though he were calculating paths and outcomes beyond the comprehension of anyone around him. A quiet intelligence that made her pulse quicken with curiosity and unease. And when they reached the edge of the village, the landscape opened into a wide valley dotted with small farms and grazing animals, the air carrying a crisp clarity that contrasted sharply with the stifling heat and dust of the village square. Marcus paused to point toward a modest house on a distant hill, explaining in a calm, even tone that this would be their home for the foreseeable future. And Lily felt a strange mixture of relief and apprehension. Grateful for a roof over her head, yet aware that she was stepping into a world she did not understand. As they walked through the fields, she noticed subtle signs of care in Marcus's movements. The way he adjusted a fence post, spoke gently to a passing farmhand, and even the precision with which he measured the distance between rows of crops. Hints of a methodical mind accustomed to managing far larger operations, yet all masked beneath a calm humility that no one in the village seemed to recognize. and the thought struck her sharply. A spark of realization that perhaps there was more to Marcus than anyone had been told. The glint of wealth and capability hidden behind the ordinary facade. And her heart quickened with a mix of anticipation and nervousness as she wondered what secrets lay beneath the surface, while Marcus continued to guide her along winding paths, pointing out small details and explaining local customs with a patience and attentiveness that suggested a respect for her perspective and a desire to ease her transition into this new life. And as the sun climbed further, casting long shadows across the rolling fields, Lily began to notice the subtle confidence in his gestures, the quiet authority in his voice, the way his eyes seemed to measure every challenge and potential outcome. And though she was still uncertain and cautious, a sense of curiosity and possibility began to take root, a fragile thread of hope weaving through her apprehension, promising that this journey, though unexpected and imposed, might reveal opportunities and truths she had never imagined. And as they approached the house, the final stretch of their walk framed by a line of tall oak trees swaying gently in the breeze, Lily's mind raced with questions about the man she had been told was poor, about the life they were to share, and about the mysteries that seemed to shimmer just beyond the horizon. The weight of expectation balanced against the flicker of anticipation, leaving her heart pounding with the sense that everything was about to change, and that the answers to the secrets she sensed were waiting just beyond the door of this modest home, ready to be discovered. Inside the modest home, sunlight filtered through the worn curtains, casting gentle stripes across the wooden floor as Lily Thompson stepped cautiously into the main room, her eyes scanning the simple furniture and the faint scent of fresh bread lingering from the kitchen. Marcus Reed following with a calm, steady pace that made each movement seem intentional and measured, the quiet authority in his gestures suggesting a life accustomed to oversight and responsibility far beyond the village limits. And Lily could not help but notice the small details, the way the corners of the room were impeccably clean, the way the windows had been polished to catch the light just so. Each small touch a signal of meticulous care, hinting at resources and influence she could not yet comprehend. And as they settled near the wooden table, Marcus spoke in a voice low and deliberate, explaining the daily routines of the household and offering guidance on the surrounding farmland, his tone patient, inviting questions, yet carrying a subtle weight that demanded attention. And Lily felt a mixture of apprehension and fascination, the puzzle of his character growing with every word, every glance. As she realized the quiet confidence and effortless command in his demeanor was something she had never encountered before. A stark contrast to the men she had known in the village, the certainty with which he approached even the simplest tasks giving her an odd sense of security despite the circumstances that had brought her here. And as they moved to inspect the garden that ran along the edge of the property, Lily noticed Marcus pausing to adjust the spacing of the vegetable rows, a small notebook in hand where he made careful notes about the soil and sunlight, the precision of his observations revealing a mind used to systems and strategy, a sharpness that contrasted with the calm ease of his presence. And while she followed, Lily's thoughts began to swirl with questions about the man who had seemed ordinary to everyone else, yet exuded a quiet power she could feel pressing against the edges of her understanding, the air around them carrying a gentle warmth that encouraged reflection. And Lily began to wonder not only about his intentions, but about the life that lay hidden behind his composed exterior, the hints of wealth, influence, and capability that were invisible to the casual observer, yet impossible to ignore for anyone paying attention. And as they reached the far end of the garden where the land sloped down toward a small stream glistening in the morning sun, Lily paused to look at the flowing water, the ripples reflecting her own mix of hope and uncertainty. Marcus beside her, remaining silent yet watchful. And in that shared quiet, she sensed a turning point, a subtle invitation to see beyond appearances, to consider that her new life, though imposed and unexpected, might hold revelations and opportunities she could not have imagined. And the thought of what lay ahead filled her with a cautious curiosity, the beginnings of trust forming even as questions lingered. And in that moment, the rhythm of the day, the measured steps of Marcus, the soft sounds of nature, and the possibilities hinted at by his quiet competence all converged to create a sense of anticipation, The promise that Lily's understanding of the world and of the man beside her was only just beginning to unfold. As the afternoon sun shifted, casting longer shadows across the garden, Lily Thompson followed Marcus Reed to a small wooden gate that opened onto a winding path leading to the edge of their property. The air filled with the scent of wild herbs and the distant sound of a creek bubbling over rocks, and Marcus moved with deliberate care, pointing out landmarks and sharing the history of the land, each word measured, his tone calm, yet imbued with an authority that suggested experience far beyond what Lily had ever known. The subtle hints of wealth and competence growing more apparent in every observation he made. The careful alignment of fences, the precision of planting rows, the meticulous maintenance of irrigation channels, all reflecting a mind that planned for both immediate needs and long-term outcomes. And as they walked, Lily noticed the way Marcus paused to inspect a large oak tree at the curve of the path, tracing his fingers along its rough bark while noting the direction of the sunlight and the pattern of the shadows, a small notebook in hand where he jotted careful notes. And she could not help but feel a spark of curiosity and cautious admiration for the depth of thought he applied even to something as seemingly ordinary as a tree. And in that moment, the boundaries between what she had imagined about her new life and the reality before her began to blur. The realization that Marcus was more than he appeared, adding layers of intrigue and anticipation. And when they reached a small terrace overlooking the valley, the view stretching into the distant hills where fields and pastures rolled toward the horizon, Lily felt a flutter of wonder, the expanse before her suggesting both freedom and opportunity. And Marcus, standing beside her with his calm composure, gestured toward the valley, explaining how each section of the land had been cultivated over the years, the care and investment evident in every corner, from the stone-lined irrigation channels to the careful alignment of crops, a subtle demonstration of skill, foresight, and resources that contradicted the simple impression everyone in the village had of him. And Lily listened intently, each revelation sparking new questions in her mind. The growing awareness that there was an entire hidden world beneath the surface of Marcus's calm exterior, a world filled with strategy, influence, and capability. And as the breeze rustled through the leaves, carrying with it the sounds of distant birds and the occasional lowing of cattle, Lily felt a mixture of awe and tentative trust, the beginnings of an understanding that her journey in this unexpected life would be shaped not only by circumstance but by the man beside her and the possibilities he represented. And with the sunlight catching the glint of his watch and the crisp lines of his attire, the promise of discovery, revelation, and a future shaped by knowledge, opportunity, and the blending of their lives hung in the air, leaving Lily with a pulse quickened by anticipation, a mind racing with questions, and a sense that each step forward would reveal more of the truth she had yet to uncover. The rhythm of their walk, the expansive view, and the subtle cues of Marcus's competence all intertwining to create a moment suspended in possibility, a quiet turning point that hinted at secrets and potential yet to unfold. As the late afternoon light painted long shadows across the fields, Lily Thompson lingered near the edge of the terrace, her hands resting lightly on the railing, eyes following the gentle curve of the valley below, the wind carrying the scent of lavender and freshly turned soil. And Marcus Reed stood beside her, the quiet strength in his posture giving her a sense of stability she had not anticipated. His gaze scanning the horizon with a mix of calculation and appreciation, noting each subtle change in the landscape and the rhythm of the farm beyond. And as he spoke, his voice calm and deliberate, he outlined plans for irrigation, crop rotation, and the careful maintenance of each plot of land. The precision in his words revealing a disciplined mind used to overseeing far larger operations than this modest property suggested. And Lily could not help but be drawn in by the depth of his knowledge and the clarity with which he communicated, each detail an invitation to see the world from a perspective she had never known, a perspective where foresight and planning created both security and opportunity. And as they walked down the narrow path toward a small grove of trees at the far edge of the property, Lily noticed how Marcus paused to examine the soil, brushing it gently with his fingers, checking for moisture and texture, and making notes in a small leather-bound notebook she had not noticed before. the subtle indication of methodical care that hinted at resources, training, and experience hidden beneath the calm exterior he presented to the village. And while they moved together in silence, Lily felt her curiosity swell, each observation a small revelation that deepened her understanding of the man she had been told was simple, each moment a glimpse into the capability and quiet power that had been carefully concealed from everyone around her. And the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden glow across the valley, the gentle rustle of leaves harmonizing with the distant calls of birds, creating a serene yet charged atmosphere. As Lily realized that this property, these lands, and the man beside her represented far more than a simple home or a marriage, that they were part of a larger tapestry of influence, skill, and potential. And as Marcus turned to her with a slight smile, the first real indication of personal warmth she had seen, Lily felt a tentative connection, a mixture of respect, curiosity, and cautious optimism. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by the soft light, the open land, and the subtle signs of hidden depth in Marcus's actions, she sensed that the coming days would reveal not only the truths about him and the life he led, but also about her own capacity to navigate and thrive in a world far broader and more intricate than she had ever imagined. Each step forward promising discovery, understanding, and the unfolding of possibilities that until now had remained just beyond her reach. As the evening settled over the valley, Lily Thompson stood near the edge of the grove, the golden light fading into a soft, cool glow as shadows stretched across the rolling fields, the gentle hum of evening insects filling the air with a calm rhythm. And Marcus Reed walked beside her with the same measured pace, his eyes occasionally flicking to the horizon as if calculating distances and observing subtle shifts in the landscape, each gesture deliberate, conveying a quiet authority that suggested both experience and foresight far beyond what Lily had previously imagined. And as they approached a small pond reflecting the dusky sky, the ripples distorting the reflection of the surrounding trees and casting dancing patterns of light across the water, Marcus paused to examine the angle of the sun and the way it illuminated the far bank, noting with quiet precision the potential for planting, irrigation, and natural protection. The notebook in his hand filled with meticulous observations and calculations that revealed the scope of his knowledge and the hidden depth of his resources, and Lily felt a growing mixture of awe and curiosity. The ordinary facade she had been presented in the village giving way to the realization that Marcus's capabilities were vast, deliberate, and carefully managed, a hidden layer of power that had been invisible to anyone not paying attention. And as they stood in silence, the soft rustle of leaves in the evening breeze mingling with the distant calls of birds returning to their nests, Lily felt a subtle shift in her understanding, recognizing that the man beside her was not only capable but intentional in his every action, a mind and presence that had been underestimated by those around her. And the thought sparked both respect and a cautious excitement, the anticipation of discovering more of the truth behind his composed exterior weaving through her thoughts, while Marcus finally turned toward her, offering a measured smile that hinted at acknowledgement and confidence without revealing too much, a quiet assurance that the journey they had begun together would gradually unfold, revealing secrets, opportunities, and the unexpected potentials of both their lives. And as the last traces of sunlight disappeared behind the distant hills, the valley taking on the soft, muted tones of approaching night, Lily felt her pulse quicken with anticipation, the gentle cool of the evening air brushing against her skin and carrying with it the sense that the coming days held discoveries and revelations far beyond her current understanding. The expansive landscape before them, the subtle competence of Marcus, and the unfolding possibilities intertwining to create a moment of suspended attention, a quiet tension that promised change, insight, and the slow unveiling of the truths that would shape her experience, leaving her both alert and captivated, ready to witness the next turn in the path that lay ahead. The stars began to emerge in the deepening twilight as Lily Thompson and Marcus Reed walked back along the winding path toward the house, the air cooling gently and carrying the faint scent of pine and earth. And with each step, Lily could feel the subtle shift in her own awareness, a growing sense of clarity about the man beside her and the world he navigated with such quiet mastery. Marcus spoke softly about the history of the land, recounting how previous generations had tended to each plot. With care and foresight, his words measured yet filled with a rhythm that conveyed both respect and authority, and Lily found herself listening intently, noting the precision with which he described water sources, sunlight patterns, and the optimal planting seasons, each observation layering new understanding about the intelligence and capability that lay beneath his composed exterior. And as they reached a small wooden bridge spanning a narrow stream, Marcus paused to inspect the water flow. Crouching slightly to trace the current with his fingers and making careful notes in the leather-bound notebook he carried, the evening light catching the glint of the metal clasp and illuminating the meticulous care he applied even to something so seemingly ordinary. And Lily's curiosity deepened, her mind racing with questions about the breadth of knowledge and hidden resources he must possess. The quiet strength in his demeanor suggesting a life managed with foresight and precision far beyond what she had assumed from the village stories. And as they crossed the bridge, the wooden planks creaking softly beneath their feet, she observed the way Marcus adjusted his steps to ensure balance, a small gesture revealing both attentiveness and patience, qualities that resonated with her growing sense of trust. And when they emerged on the far side, the path opening onto a small grove where the last light of day glimmered through the leaves in a mosaic of gold and green, Lily felt a rush of anticipation, the realization settling that the life ahead would be shaped not by appearances alone but by understanding, collaboration, and the unfolding of the hidden depth in the man beside her. And Marcus, noticing her attentive gaze, offered a small, knowing smile, one that acknowledged her observation without breaking the calm. And in that moment, the landscape around them, the whispering trees, the flowing stream, the distant hills bathed in twilight, combined with the subtle competence and quiet confidence of Marcus Reed, creating a sense of possibility, a promise that what lay ahead would reveal more than she had imagined, that the path forward would unfold with lessons, discoveries, and the chance to see the truth of a life carefully hidden beneath the ordinary. And as the shadows lengthened and the first hints of night settled across the valley, Lily felt both the weight of uncertainty and the thrill of anticipation, the sense that each step taken together would uncover the depth, skill, and intent of the man who walked beside her, and that the journey they were on was only beginning to reveal the extraordinary beneath the surface of the ordinary, leaving her pulse quickened and her mind alert to every sign, gesture, and subtle clue about the secrets and potential that the coming days would disclose. The cool night settled over the valley, the sky now a deep indigo sprinkled with stars, and Lily Thompson stood at the edge of the terrace, her breath visible in the crisp air as she gazed across the fields, each tree and patch of land softened by the gentle glow of moonlight, while Marcus Reed walked beside her, his presence steady and calm, each step deliberate and measured, conveying an unspoken assurance that he understood the rhythm of the land and the life they were beginning together. And as he spoke, his voice low and steady, he shared insights about the soil, the seasons, and the subtle patterns that dictated the growth of crops, his words painting a picture of strategy and foresight that Lily could not help but find compelling, the precision in his observations suggesting years of careful management and hidden expertise. And as they walked along the winding path that led from the terrace toward the small grove at the edge of their property, Lily noticed the small details. The alignment of the stones along the path, the way the water from the stream had been diverted subtly to nourish certain trees, the meticulous attention given to each plant and each patch of soil, each detail speaking to a mind attuned to planning, responsibility, and a vision that reached far beyond what the village had ever imagined. And Lily felt a mixture of admiration and curiosity building within her, the understanding that Marcus's capabilities were far greater than appearances suggested, and yet he remained grounded, patient, and considerate, teaching her to see the land, the work, and the opportunities with a new perspective, the kind that revealed the value of careful observation and deliberate action. And as they reached the grove, the moonlight catching the tops of the trees and casting long, delicate shadows across the path, Lily felt a quiet thrill at the realization that her life was intertwined with someone who possessed such hidden depth and competence, someone whose calm exterior masked a world of knowledge, influence, and foresight that she was only beginning to glimpse, and Marcus paused to gesture toward the valley below, explaining how each section of land had been cultivated over time, the thoughtfulness and precision in his words emphasizing a continuity and respect for legacy. And Lily listened intently, absorbing every detail, sensing that these lessons were not only about the land but about understanding the man beside her, the choices he had made, and the possibilities that their shared future might hold. And as a soft breeze rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of pine and fresh earth, Lily felt her pulse quicken with anticipation, the quiet confidence of Marcus, the serene night, and the expansive valley converging to create a sense of potential, discovery, and the unspoken promise that the days ahead would reveal truths, opportunities, and the unfolding of a life far larger and richer than she had ever imagined, leaving her fully engaged, attentive, and eager for the secrets and insights that were yet to be revealed. The first hints of dawn crept over the distant hills as Lily Thompson followed Marcus Reed back to the main house, the night air giving way to a soft, cool morning breeze that carried the scent of damp soil and wildflowers. And with each step along the winding path, she felt a growing sense of anticipation, a curiosity about the man beside her that had been building quietly over the past days. Each observation revealing new layers of thoughtfulness, capability, and hidden depth. Marcus spoke, in his usual calm, deliberate tone, describing the practicalities of running the land, the schedules for irrigation, the rotation of crops, and the delicate balance required to maintain the harmony of the property, his words precise yet imbued with a quiet patience. And Lily could not help but admire the depth of knowledge and foresight he applied even to the smallest details. The subtle efficiency and strategy, suggesting experience and resources far beyond what the village had ever perceived. And as they reached the front porch, the rising sun catching the edges of the wooden railing and illuminating the subtle grain patterns in the planks, Lily paused to absorb the full panorama, the rolling fields, the small groves of trees, and the distant mountains beyond, all framed by the soft glow of morning light. A vision of both tranquility and opportunity, and Marcus gestured toward a section of the valley below, explaining the potential for expansion and improvement, noting the natural resources, the soil conditions, and the seasonal patterns that would guide the planting and harvesting. And Lily listened closely, each detail reinforcing the understanding that Marcus's calm exterior masked a complex mind accustomed to planning, foresight, and deliberate action. And she felt a subtle thrill at realizing that she was witnessing not only the management of a property, but the careful orchestration of potential, the kind that could shape lives and communities if guided wisely. And as they stepped onto the porch and looked out across the expanse, the gentle rustle of leaves in the morning breeze and the distant calls of birds created a rhythm that seemed to synchronize with her thoughts, reinforcing the sense that the world Marcus navigated was vast and layered, full of hidden intricacies and possibilities that she was only beginning to perceive. And in that quiet, suspended moment, the realization dawned that this new life, though unexpected and imposed, offered lessons, insights, and opportunities that could redefine her understanding of the world and of the man walking beside her. The horizon stretching wide and open, hinting at discoveries, revelations, and the unfolding of a future that promised both challenge and growth, leaving Lily with a pulse quickened by anticipation, a mind alert to subtle cues, and a growing sense that each day would reveal more of the truths, capabilities, and potentials that Marcus had carefully concealed beneath the ordinary, and that her journey was only beginning to unveil the extraordinary beneath the surface of the life she had stepped into. Morning light spilled across the valley as Lily Thompson stepped onto the terrace, the dew glistening on the grass and the distant mountains bathed in pale gold, the air crisp and fragrant with wildflowers and fresh earth. And Marcus Reed walked beside her with quiet ease, each movement deliberate, his gaze sweeping the horizon as if cataloging every detail, the subtle strength in his posture hinting at knowledge and capability beyond the modest appearances he maintained. And as they walked toward the edge of the property, Marcus began explaining the interplay of sunlight, soil, and water for the upcoming planting season, his voice calm yet precise. conveying both authority and care, and Lily listened attentively, absorbing every detail, the precision in his observations sparking both curiosity and admiration, as she realized that each action, each decision, was part of a larger, meticulously orchestrated plan, a hidden depth she had only begun to understand, and the way he adjusted a fallen branch along the path, examined the soil near the stream, and noted the direction of the breeze revealed a mind attuned to both the present and the long term, balancing practicality with vision. While Lily felt a growing respect and subtle awe, the quiet confidence of Marcus giving her a sense of reassurance even as the scale of his hidden expertise became apparent. And as they reached a small wooden bridge spanning a narrow creek, the sound of water trickling over stones, filling the silence with gentle rhythm, Marcus paused to trace the flow with his fingers, adjusting the angle of small diversion channels to optimize irrigation, the leather notebook in his hand revealing careful notations, calculations, and plans that spoke to years of experience, foresight, and a life lived with intent and discipline. And Lily, watching each movement, felt a mixture of fascination and anticipation, understanding that her life here was only beginning to intersect with the depth of knowledge and opportunity that Marcus possessed, the interplay of natural beauty, careful management, and the promise of potential creating a sense of both wonder and engagement. And as they continued toward the grove at the far edge of the property, the sunlight now stronger, casting long shadows across the fields and illuminating the subtle textures of leaves, rocks, and water, Lily felt her mind expanding with questions and possibilities, each observation reinforcing the notion that the world Marcus navigated was vast, layered, and strategically cultivated, and that her journey alongside him would not only reveal the hidden truths of his life, but also offer insights, lessons, and opportunities for growth that she had never imagined. The soft rustle of leaves, the distant call of birds, and the rhythm of flowing water creating a backdrop of quiet anticipation, leaving her heart steady, but expectant, fully attuned to every gesture, word, and hint of the extraordinary potential that lay in this shared path, promising discovery, understanding, and the unfolding of hidden truths that would gradually illuminate the scope of Marcus's capabilities and the possibilities awaiting her in this new life. The soft morning light stretched across the valley as Lily Thompson and Marcus Reed moved through the orchard, the air carrying the faint fragrance of blooming flowers and freshly tilled soil, each step stirring the crisp grass beneath their feet. And Marcus spoke with a calm, measured tone, explaining the importance of timing in planting, the rotation of crops, and the subtle nuances of soil composition that dictated the health of the land. His observations precise, deliberate, and revealing a mind attuned to strategy and long-term planning. And Lily listened closely, absorbing each word, the depth of knowledge behind his calm demeanor becoming increasingly evident, the subtle ways he checked the alignment of trees, the flow of water from the irrigation channels, and the spacing between the rows of vegetables, all demonstrating foresight, care, and a quiet command that suggested capabilities far beyond what the village had assumed. And as they walked along a narrow path lined with stone markers, Lily noticed the meticulous attention Marcus paid to each detail, noting the patterns of sunlight, the angle of the wind, and even the density of the soil near the roots of young saplings, each gesture revealing a discipline and competence that was at once impressive and reassuring. And while the orchard stretched around them in a tranquil expanse, the rustle of leaves and distant chirping of birds providing a serene backdrop, Lily felt a surge of curiosity and respect, the realization that the life she had entered was far more intricate and rich than she had imagined. Each interaction, each observation, and each subtle cue providing insight into the depth of Marcus's vision and the care he applied to every aspect of the property. And as they reached a small clearing where the morning light caught the dew on the grass, sparkling like tiny crystals, Marcus paused, gesturing toward the valley below and explaining how each section of the land was interconnected, how the decisions made in one area affected the productivity and balance of the others. And Lily felt a sense of wonder at the complexity and harmony of it all, understanding that what she was witnessing was not merely land management but the orchestration of potential, opportunity, and hidden resources, And as she stood there absorbing the scale, the precision, and the quiet authority Marcus displayed, she realized that her journey with him was only beginning, that the lessons, discoveries, and possibilities that lay ahead would reshape her understanding of both the land and the man beside her, leaving her heart filled with anticipation, her mind alert to every nuance, and a quiet excitement simmering beneath the surface as she prepared to uncover the secrets, the skill, and the opportunities that were waiting to reveal themselves in the days to come. The morning sun poured across the valley, illuminating the gentle slopes and the patchwork of fields that stretched beyond the horizon. And Lily Thompson walked beside Marcus Reed with a sense of purpose she had not felt before, the crisp air carrying the scent of grass and wildflowers as their steps synchronized along the narrow path toward the small stone farmhouse at the heart of the property. Marcus moving with the same quiet authority that had marked every moment of the past days, his eyes scanning the landscape, noting subtle shifts in the light, the flow of water, and the health of the soil, and Lily found herself attuned to each observation, understanding that each gesture, each calculation, and each careful step revealed a depth of experience, strategy, and foresight that she was only beginning to grasp. And as they reached the front porch, the wooden steps creaking softly under their weight, Marcus paused to point out the alignment of the garden plots, the spacing of the young saplings, and the direction of the irrigation channels, explaining in his calm, deliberate tone how each decision impacted the balance and productivity of the property as a whole, the precision of his words reinforcing the sense that he approached even the smallest detail with care and purpose. And Lily listened intently, the rhythm of his voice and the subtle movement of his hands guiding her understanding, the realization settling in her mind that the man she had believed to be ordinary carried knowledge and capabilities far beyond what anyone in the village could imagine. And as they stepped into the main house, the air warm and filled with the scent of fresh wood and earth, Marcus led her through each room, noting the sunlight patterns, the flow of air, and the placement of furniture to maximize efficiency and comfort, his explanations measured yet inviting, encouraging Lily to observe and learn. And with each passing moment, she sensed the vastness of the hidden world he had been managing, a life of responsibility, strategy, and quiet influence carefully concealed beneath an unassuming exterior. And as they reached the study at the back of the house, sunlight streaming through the large windows, Marcus gestured to a collection of maps, charts, and notebooks that detailed years of careful planning, the subtle interplay of land, resources, and timing revealing a mind attuned to both immediate and long-term consequences. And Lily felt a growing mixture of awe and excitement, realizing that this was more than a home, more than land. It was a carefully orchestrated world of potential, opportunity, and insight. And standing there, surrounded by the evidence of deliberate thought, she understood that the coming days would bring revelations about Marcus, the land, and herself, that her journey was only beginning, and that every observation, every lesson, and every subtle cue would guide her toward understanding the hidden truths and possibilities that had been quietly waiting to be discovered, leaving her fully engaged, alert, and filled with anticipation for the unfolding of the extraordinary beneath the surface of the ordinary. The late afternoon sun cast a warm glow across the valley as Lily Thompson and Marcus Reed stood on the terrace, overlooking the fields that stretched like a quilt of green and gold, the wind carrying the faint scent of wildflowers and fresh earth. And Lily felt a deep sense of clarity settle within her, a recognition that the journey she had begun was about to reveal truths and possibilities far beyond what she had imagined. Marcus remained calm beside her, his posture composed, his eyes reflecting both the present moment and the layers of planning, foresight, and hidden knowledge that had guided his life and shaped the land around them. And as they looked out across the valley, the sunlight catching the subtle textures of trees, grass, and water, Lily noticed the precision in the way Marcus observed each detail, the alignment of irrigation channels, the spacing of crops, the gentle flow of the stream, all revealing a deliberate attention to balance and harmony. And she realized that his careful management was not merely for productivity, but a reflection of a mind attuned to long-term vision, strategy, and the subtle interplay of resources, environment, and timing. and the thought sparked in her a mixture of awe and anticipation. The awareness that the ordinary world around her had concealed layers of complexity and potential, layers that Marcus navigated with quiet authority. And as they stepped down the final stretch of the path to the edge of the orchard, the soft rustle of leaves and distant calls of birds providing a natural rhythm, Lily felt a surge of curiosity and determination, understanding that each step forward would reveal more of the knowledge, capability, and foresight Marcus possessed, the subtle lessons embedded in each gesture and decision, and that her own role in this world would evolve alongside him. The ordinary and the extraordinary converging in ways she had yet to fully comprehend. And as they paused at the wooden bridge arching over the small creek, the water reflecting the golden light and casting shimmering patterns on the surrounding foliage, Marcus gestured toward the valley, explaining how the careful balance of land, water, and sunlight created both opportunity and resilience. And Lily absorbed each word, each observation, the quiet confidence and competence in his presence providing both reassurance and insight, a guide to navigating not only the physical space, but the unfolding story of their lives together. And in that moment, standing at the edge of the orchard with the gentle wind brushing against her face, Lily felt a sense of anticipation and readiness, the understanding that the journey they had embarked on was only beginning to reveal the hidden truths, the possibilities, and the extraordinary potential that lay beneath the surface, and that the days ahead would gradually unveil the depth of Marcus's capabilities, the richness of the land, and the choices that would shape their shared future. Leaving her heart steady but alert, fully attuned to every subtle cue, every gesture, and every unfolding discovery that would define the extraordinary path she had entered.